Hey, come on in. We are back for more book talk. In just a few, I'm gonna go live with a Win Publications author and friend, DeandreOffical. Let me go ahead and ping him on in here. You guys, did you see did you get a chance to watch, oh, there he is. Did you get a chance to watch, the previous, oh my Lord, what am I trying to say? Did you get a chance to watch the previous, slide that I did earlier today? If not, check it out. So many gems. I love doing this. I think this is going to be something that I keep up. And so let me know if you're enjoying these book talks. I am waiting for my friend to join me. We are going to get into it. We published this book. It's called what happened? Oh, it's called Dedicated to Being God's Visionary by DeandreOffical. And so this is the cover. Hey, Lawrence King. Oh, what's good? Hey,
yo, what up?
Yo,
what's
how's
up?
it going?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Man, good to see you. It has been almost a whole year. No,
Has it almost been a year?
It's been like 7 months.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, 2022 just been flying past me. It's been just going.
Can you believe it? It's about to be the end of May soon.
I know. I started seeing advertisements for summer. I'm like, summer? Where?
It's here. I know. What's going on? What's new?
Oh man. So it's crazy that we're on this live today. I've been working diligently on an audiobook version of that book.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm like 80% finished.
Okay.
But I'm super excited about it. You know, I think it's gonna bring another dynamic to the story and everything.
Nice. Spill the details. Can you tell us a little bit about it? What is it about?
So what's gonna be different? So I always tell people that, you know, I love what I wrote, and I definitely want you to be inspired by the words. But the most important part of that devotional, because I really see it as more of a mental health devotional. Yeah, right. It's a mental health devotional. The best part about it is the journaling section, which came from, you know, advice from you, actually. Who?
Okay, cool.
So I actually think that's the best part of it. And with the audiobook version, I'm gonna have my notes, my journaling notes. As a part of it. So after every chapter, you'll get to hear how I journal my way throughout the devotional. So I think that's going to be probably the best part about it. And I'm adding a little bit of a dramatization, a little music element to some parts. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna spice it up. So it's going to be different.
What? Shut up. Oh, I'm so hyped. I'm so excited to hear about that. So if you guys don't know, I'm just going to give you a sneak peek. And so there are like journal pages. This is after the first I guess chapter, the first devotion in the book. And so that's dope. That's so dope. And of course, you know, I love writing. I love journaling. And so these are journals that I have made. This one says keep moving forward. And I have about 22 of these designs just because, man, you know, talk about mental health and like, you know, me as a writer, I mean, it just makes sense for me to write as a way of release, and to write as a way of healing. And so that's just something that I try to include in almost everything that I do. So that's cool to hear that, you know, and I don't even recall, which is so funny. Sometimes I'm like, I just be telling people to do stuff, and then when they take my advice and do it, and it was like, I forget, honestly, until someone brings it back up, like, oh, you told me to do that.
Really? No, listen. Cool. I have to share this with your audience then. You know, when I sent in the first version of the devotional, you were like, hey, It's good. I read over it, but there were some parts that I felt like you could have dived into a little bit more. You know what I mean? Some parts that I thought you could have dived into a little bit more. Yeah. And you advised me about the journalist section. I was like, I didn't take no offense to it. I was like, I think she knows what she's talking about. I reread it and I was like, we're gonna add to it because I'm not done talking. I thought I was done. But I wasn't.
That's cool because now I do remember that. I remember reading like, yo, this man is holding back. Like, but the thing is, I already knew you beforehand, and I don't know if I would have had like said no. Now I know like who I am now, who I am today. Probably would speak up and say like, come on, you holding back, right? You holding back. Spill all the beans, but like, man, back I don't know. I don't know if I didn't already know you, I probably would have not have said anything like, because I just wouldn't have known. You know what I mean? It's like when you're the audience, like it's almost like when I was in high school, I was a part of the dance team, and they would say like, if you mess up, just keep going. Nobody knows the routine, but you. And so kind of the same thing with books, like nobody knows how the story's supposed to go, but the writer, but the author themselves, unless you know maybe that particular person, then you know that maybe there's more to it. And so I was like, man, this guy holding back. Like, he is holding back. I know he
I'm glad you knew me personally then.
The second time I was like, okay, cool. But can we add some notes? Because even now I'm reading a book by a friend, and I might have to give him the same advice because it's one of those kind of, and it could just be me because I'm someone who like, when I'm reading, and if it's one of those things that I have to think about and I have to spend time on, I'm like, dang, I need some paper. Like I need my journal with me. And I'm reading a book that's very much like, oh, this has my, like, I can't just sit here and just read the book from cover to cover. Like I'm really sitting here and thinking about it. And I'm like, dang, I wish there was, like, dang, I wish I didn't have to have like a whole separate journal to write down my thoughts. I wish it was just a part of the book. Even kind of like, you know how like note-taking Bibles have like the journal.
Yeah. I thought about that too.
Side part.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, and I feel like it helped it move more into the original idea, which was the space for it to be a devotional more than, I know I called it a book a lot because I have, it's just a habit, but it having a journalist section really moves it into that devotional space. Like, oh, this is something that you're supposed to be worked on, you know what I mean? And something that's supposed to be applied to your life. It's not just not just to read, you know? So,
oh man, but 1 second. Yes, please don't interrupt me again, okay? We love you, but come on now. That's my child wanting to get in. She coming in with her little book she just wrote.
You already know she is.
She learned a minute ago, so she want to shout it out. Okay, shout out to Gia. You know, she got a book she's working on.
Yeah, the kid artist. That's the future. Future
man,
artist, man.
Okay, but I'm like, can we hold up, G? We'll get you on Instagram Live soon. She want to be. But anyways, cool. So okay, cool. That's what's up. I'm looking forward to that. That's dope. And you know, audiobooks honestly that's something that I'm even looking into is audiobooks because it's just I feel like it's a whole nother demographic that is into audiobooks. You know, I have some friends that are, you know, they work 12-hour days, and the only time that they really have
people with those commutes, you know,
pop in an audiobook, and a lot of times also I want to say it's intellectual thinkers. Not trying to say people who sit and read books and stuff like that are not intellectual thinkers, but a lot of times I want to say it is the intellectual thinkers, as in what do I mean by that? As in like they're listening to the words and maybe thinking about it at the same time, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And so instead of, I guess you can read and also think about it at the same time, but it's different. I feel like it's a different part of our brain that we use when we're listening to things versus reading them.
I feel like especially when it's combined with some physical activity like walking or driving. You know what I mean? When it's combined with one of those activities, I feel like it adds a memory to the moment. You won't just say, I was listening to this. You be like, I was walking down the street this morning and I was listening to this. You know what I mean? So it kind of like adds some environment to your reading. Like when I read, I'm sitting down in the same space almost every single time, you know, like in my house
Yeah.
or in my office in the same space. It's not active, you know? So I feel like you get that active part when you move into the audiobook section.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And I guess to be the devil's advocate on the other side of that, just I like to look at things from each perspective. Someone would say, just a physical book and reading is that it puts you in like a meditative state. You're just
It
sitting
does
there,
though.
you're
That's the
present,
good thing about
you're not moving, you're just
Oh, don't
there
get me wrong. I
reading.
love that spot when I'm just sitting by
Yeah.
myself, not doing nothing. I love it though.
Right. And so I guess it just depends on what mood you're trying to be in. If you want to just be still and read something, okay, pick up a book. But if you're trying to be active, an audiobook is probably the way to go. And so that's dope. That's dope. That's dope. Okay. What else is new? What's been going on? You got an album, something coming out? What else are you working on?
Yep. So I'm currently working on some new music. I just put out some music recently. With my boy Lance. You know him. We just dropped the album on SoundCloud recently. Hero Love. Y'all can go check that out. It's on SoundCloud right now. Hero Love. And also, so I've also been working on a relationship book. Me and my wife, we've been having a lot of talks about collabing. We've even got like some side notes already put down. And I'm also in the podcast space, so I kind of we've added that to the podcast space, but I want to kind of bring that to the book space too. Nice. Talking about relationships, I feel like that's a subject that really never dies. It always needs tweaking. and as much as some of the principles sound the same, the problems can be very unique, so I feel like that's a space that always, needs to be covered. You always have to hop back in that space and talk about relationships. So that's my 2022 was to kind of finish the audio book and move into working on the relationship book, at least getting it started. I'm trying to set a foundation for that. And at the same time, still moving with music and still moving with podcasts. I'm still do the live podcast. The life training class on the RTC page, still doing that about 2 to 3 times a month. At first it was just a live class, but it turned into a podcast, so now it's nice. You can get the full audio version that's available on the link in my page. So yeah, all that is happening. I'm like you, man, we run a million things at a time. It's like I'm even trying to sit up there. I'm like, what else am I doing? Like, there's so many things,
man,
working out.
When you're a creative entrepreneur, it's like I feel some type of way when someone's like, you just need to focus on one thing. I tried it and it doesn't
work. I tried it too.
It doesn't work out for me. It doesn't work out for me.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm quenching so many other talents, like when I try just one thing, Yeah. And I was like, no, but and what what also is amazing to me is that, like, when you have a great idea, every idea is like an onion. Like, every idea has so many layers that can be pulled out of it. And I can take one concept and make it audio, put it in an audio book. I can take that same concept and write it down and put it in the physical book. But that same concept, I could put it in the song. And that's, what I mean? Like, it's so many different areas that you can take one concept. And I think that's like the beauty of learning and the beauty of being able to see your principles really come to life, because you can be artistic with every single idea you have. Wow. You don't have to move on too fast from idea to idea. You can take one and plant it in different gardens, you know what I mean, and watch it bloom. So I'm with I wouldn't necessarily say it's a jack of all spades, because I think we're at a different level of every single thing, but I'm definitely with the creative that's like, I gotta have my foot in multiple spaces. I can't just be in one area.
Yeah, multi-dimensional, definitely.
Yeah.
Earlier, I was on IG Live a little bit earlier, and that was something that I was telling the lady I was talking to is, even with writing a book, writing anything, right? You could take your book and turn it, like you said, into an audiobook. It could be put into a movie. The film area. Yeah. There's so much you can do with writing, right? And it's just like, oh my God, when we think about everything that we see around us, somebody had to write up a blueprint for this house that I'm in. Somebody had to write a blueprint for the car that you're in with directions and instructions and things for someone to figure out how to do it. And there's
somebody
just
had to write the Constitution. Somebody had to write, you know what I mean? These laws that's in
had to
place.
write
People
the
had to
laws
write
that we
that stuff.
abide by. Yeah. And so when you look at it like that, when you take a step back from like just thinking about, oh, writing a book, there's so much that can come from writing a book. I'm pro write a book, tell your story, solidify it, not just in words, as in audiobook that's capturing your words. And so that could be lived on even after you pass on. But like, if you're just telling stories, right? And so something that I shared before is like growing up around storytellers, my grandparents, man, they had the best stories ever.
Yeah.
But nobody wrote them down. We didn't record them. Nobody taped them. And I'm like, dang, man, like, oh, like that just like makes my heart a little bit tense. Like,
it's
dang,
like,
I wish we would have captured those stories like the way that they told them. I wish they would have captured them in writing, because how beautiful would that have been? But like now on this side, being able to do something about it, that's my message that I tell people. Write the story, even if it's for nobody but your family. Write the story. They will thank you so much for it later.
Right,
yeah.
Even if it's for nobody but your family. Because I've after releasing the book, I came across so many people that was like, yeah, man, I've been thinking about writing. Yeah, man, I had this book in my mind too. Like, you know, so many people have started or thought about it. And I'm like, all these authors around. I didn't know everybody was an author. Like, almost everybody has an author inside of them. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Only a few people will do it. I hear it every day. Like, oh, I got a book idea. Okay, well, what's stopping you from writing it? Ooh, you can't say you don't know how, because I'm gonna tell you right here, I'm a resource of knowledge. Ask and we can work it out. But and so maybe that's where the mental health part comes in. I did start going back to school to get my degree to be a therapist this month. And so
dope.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing though, like I thought I wanted to work with just trauma victims, which that still has like a huge part of my heart. But I also really want to work with authors who struggle a little bit maybe with their trauma in the past, that's being a block from is keeping them from moving forward with their writing, because some sort of trauma or some story that they're telling themselves about who they are, and maybe they need help with changing that like mental story in their mind before they can actually write the story with their hand. And so it's like, and believe it or not, there's a lot of authors who struggle with like insecurity and imposter syndrome, who first need to work on themselves before they can actually write their story and share it. Or like they wrote in their story is published and it's shared, but they won't share that they have a story that they wrote because of this insecurity about themselves. Oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Oh, maybe nobody will like this book. Oh, there's a ton of other stories out there like this. And it's like, man, you know, and so there's this huge part of me that just wants people to like be encouraged, but to also like change and maybe get over that a little bit. Of course, in their own time. But yeah.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that too. You know, so I actually, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, talking about like how, you know, the writing has a healing component to it. Yeah. And so, you know, the crazy thing about that devotional, it began as you know, I was a young adult pastor, a licensed minister. And I used to teach a Bible study class, and I feel like God had gave me this crazy lesson about vision, and I was like, okay. I started, you know, panning it out, and I wanted to actually preach it. It was going to be a series that I was going to preach at first, and I couldn't get the space for it. So the place the church that I was at, they didn't allow me to have the space to preach it there. So I was like, okay, if I can't preach it, I'll write it. You know what I mean? So oh wow. I started writing it, and that was the initial reason to just kind of get the message out. And then I had already planned on it being a devotional and it going through 7 days. But I kind of wanted to like write like Monday on Monday. So I was like, okay, on this Monday, I just chose a Monday, and I was like, and I'm gonna start on this day. And on that day, my grandmother passed. the same exact day that I decided to start writing, you know? And when that happened, you know, just kind of like what you're saying, like it almost put a block. Almost immediately, I was almost like, okay, I can't write. You know what I mean? Like I can't finish this. And then eventually, you know, I feel like God used that moment, the traumatic experience, to create the rest of the book. It gave the book a different angle. Then it became like not just about vision, but about maintaining it throughout grief. You know what I mean? Like throughout experiencing something that was traumatic. And I feel like that's really what the book, you know, needed to be. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's what it really needed to be. And it became my healing experience, you know what I mean, to try to write it, and not just try to write it, but try to write it and also apply it and live by it. You know what I mean? Like for years to come, right? So I feel like almost the second thing is happening again when I decided to start on the audio book. I was, you know, moving past it. I was probably like halfway done, and then we lost our friend. You know, Mark passed. And so once again, I was almost like, I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like I can't finish this. But now, once again, I'm finding that traumatic experience to be the motivation to lead. Like, this is not, what you're doing is not just about, you know, it's not self-help. It's not just about having a vision, but it's about maintaining something throughout grief, like keeping your identity and keeping your prayer life alive in the midst of stuff happening. And I guess God was like, you got to live it. You know what I mean? If you're going to write it, you got to put it out there.
Okay. That's so funny. Okay, wait, go ahead. Were you done? I'm sorry. I was being hyped.
No, I was finished.
Okay. No, that's so dope, because earlier today I was reading something again. One of my friends had sent me their book before it's published, and I'm just falling in love with it. But one of the things that I asked, that it caused me to ask, was like, yo, is this just a story or is this your heart? And he was like, doesn't every writer write with their heart? Or like, don't they write and share their heart? And I'm like, no. Like, sometimes people just write stuff because they have that talent and that gift. And so they just are able to like be a wordsmith and just put stuff together and put it out there with no emotional connection to it. And there's maybe, I don't even know the percentage. It might be something worth looking up, but how many authors write like what they experience, or write and actually like utilize their own story to help themselves? And I know I feel like it could be very churchy, or it might even be not even as churchy as I'm thinking as it to be, but like the whole like practice what you preach, right? That whole like practice what you preach. Like, we're not out here saying do these things and we're not doing them. Absolutely. I'm someone who's saying write your story and publish it. I have books of my own.
You got multiple books though.
Right. Okay. I'm not here telling you to journal, and I'm not journaling myself. I started creating journals, right? Because I need them. I'm like, dang, I almost feel like, you know, as for me and like the things that I write and the things that I do, it first started because I needed it. And I took that whole, you know, write the book that you need, or write the book that you want to read. I took that very serious. Like, a lot of the things that I'm putting out, it's because I needed it first. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe somebody else needs this. And so let me go ahead and share it, and, you know, and kind of take that route. But it's something. It really is something. I don't know. I haven't come to like a full understanding about any of that yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the same principle I have for my concept of God, is that like he doesn't tell you to do anything that he doesn't do first. You know what I mean? So if he wants you to love, if he wants you to forgive, if he wants you to create, he did all that first. You know what I mean? It's not like it's just rules coming out of nowhere. It's like, nah, I showed you how to do it, and I want you to follow in my footsteps, because I think that's the best thing for you. So I feel like it's the same thing we have in our space of not just authors, but as leaders. You know what I mean? Because we're leaders in the space, you know? Or the word that you taught me about being in the space is being an authority in the space. You know what I mean? So if you're an authority in the space, it's got to have some kind of experience, you know what I mean, backed up with it. Like, I do this, I live this. It's not just something that I think is cool, you know? So, yeah, I love watching it. Every time I see you post this stuff, I think about that aspect, like, I know even more. Like, you've been writing for a minute. You know what I mean? Like,
Quite a minute, yeah.
been writing for a cool minute and putting out the product. You know what I'm saying? Not
Yeah.
just writing it. So it's a beautiful thing when I believe like you can see people following that same example, like they following you, like they're doing the same things that you're doing. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. Like, lead by example, right? Like, and to me, someone asked me, like, how do you determine whether someone is wise? Or, like, how do you come to the conclusion about wisdom? Or how do you come to the conclusion about whether advice is sound or not? And I said, well, a lot of times, and I don't know, I say a lot of times it depends on, like, what has that person experienced. Are you going to tell me about something that you have no experience in, like, in your life? Oh, I can't get with that. Like, I'm not going to go to the homeless man for financial advice. I'm just not going to do it. No judgment to that person. Like, that just doesn't look or sound like wisdom to me. And so in that same, whatever, I don't even know the word, but like, when people judge me, I want them to be able to say, like, oh, she's actually living that life. Like, I'm not just on here telling people to write books and how to publish them and like how to sell their books and how to market their books. And I'm not actually doing that myself, because to me, that's kind of phony, right? And you can play and act and like finesse all day long, but at the end of the day, I feel like the light is going to be shown on that lie. And and I've experienced that like with other people, and it's repulsing. And I know that that's something that I don't like. So why would I put that out there? Like, I'm not going to be telling you, like, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you to do something that I don't do myself. Right.
Right.
And so, yeah.
And so, I feel like it's the same idea you get with our faith. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, if you're going to be telling people about faith, I hope you're faithful. You know what I mean? It's like, and that doesn't mean perfect, but at least faithful. Yeah. You know what I mean? At least it's something that you're continuously actually trying to stick to. You know what I mean? Like, you're not just trying to give this information away. And like particularly about like authorship, another reason why I get inspired by God to write is because, I really feel like this. And this is especially coming from conversations that I had with people after releasing the book. Hearing all those people, like we just mentioned, that's having these books that were unwritten, that were unfinished, that's in their heads and stuff like that. Some of the most important information is put in books. The most valuable information that we hold, some of the most sacred texts are sacred because they've been written and they've been put inside books. And, oftentimes, like, I know sometimes we see the Bible as one book, but it's multiple books, and sometimes we see those writers as as God ordained to write, but really those are people who were inspired that were just writing. Like, we call Moses a great leader, but we don't really call him a great author. But I mean, he wrote Genesis. Wow, that's some great authorship. You know what I mean? Like,
wow, come on, he wrote a dope book. Smack up. What? That's a bar.
Right. So that's how I look at it. Like, no, like, it wasn't just like I'm experiencing life. Like, I had to write this down. You know what I mean? Like, like what I experienced was so important that I had to write this down. I had to share it. And sometimes we don't always know the outcome that'll come from it. You know what I mean? The impact that might be left on people from it. But if at all there was any moment, and I just use Moses for example, we wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. If there was at all in any moment where he felt like, man, nobody want to hear the words that I got to say. You know what I mean? Like, if there was a moment in that moment where he switched over to saying, this is God speaking through me, so I got to write this down, then I feel like that puts us back into where I said we were at first in the conversation, where we're leading by the experience. You know what I mean? So he's not just I'm writing words so you can hear it. I experienced this moment with God. Yeah. And I got to write this down. You know what I mean? So it's coming from that place. And I feel like that's the space that authors, that I appreciate authors that live in. And matter of fact, any space, when people have a message, my appreciation comes from the actual life experience, the story, you know what I'm saying, that comes behind it. That's my emotional connection to the stuff that you've written. Like you share your life experiences, you know what I mean, and the stuff that comes from behind it when you write. So that's what I think makes authorship just beautiful, you know what I mean, in and of itself. It's like that leading by experience, that I have this experience and I'm writing it down.
Yeah, that's so dope. And even a lot of songs, like I know we were talking about just the different like areas that you can take as far as writing, like different songs come from a person's experience, right? I haven't had a chance to listen to all of Kendrick Lamar's album that he just dropped. And I know you're a person that gets down with Kendrick Lamar, so I haven't listened to the whole album yet. But, you know, just from like listening to different podcasts and like reading stuff online, like, you know, what people are saying about it is definitely they could see that he has shared a lot of his self and his traumatic experience in his music. And that's a lot of conscious rappers, and maybe even the rappers who are just talking about, you know, excuse me, bitches and hoes.
Yeah, I would say that. Like even the unconscious rappers, they still are sharing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know, and I don't really cuss on this, but I'm going to just keep it 100 because I don't know how else to be at this point in my life. I'm going to just keep it all the way real because that's how it is. You know, people share their experiences, and man, God forbid there comes a day where we're not able to do that. And again, back to like the healing aspect of it, like, man, I'm letting this go. To me, like writing and like putting words down on paper is like a release. Like, I don't have to hold on to this anymore. I'm no longer holding on to this burden. Like, you know, the whole like scripture and phrase, like cast your burden on God. For me, that looks like writing it down. Like, let me just write this down.
I
Let
like
it go.
That. Yeah.
Like, let me just write this down. And like, when I write it down in my mind, I tell myself it's written down. That means you're letting it go. You cannot pick this back up. You see it. You see that it's clearly here written down, right? Because sometimes we get caught up in like this mental aspect of, man, it's still in my mind. Well, let it go by writing it down. Like, get that thing off of your mind. Like, it's too heavy to carry. Write it down. And I know one of the authors that I worked with recently, her name is Tiffany Kimbrough, but she goes by Tiff. And she was someone who grew up in the church with me as well at Friendship. And so she was sharing about how the story came to her. And she said, I was just journaling. And then she was like, a small voice told me, like, this is a book. And like, I needed to share this and put this out. And now we got a book that just came out. And so I'm like, you know, and that's the thing. And even earlier I was sharing about how like some people will say, oh, God gave me this story, but then they don't do like anything else to the story as far as like polish it up. Like, let's edit this. Like, you know, things, at least for me, I feel like things should be done like decent and in order. And so that means it should be done in excellence and like take your time and like don't rush it, you know, because I feel like the details matter, those things matter. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but I'm just sharing.
That's cool. And you know, let me piggyback off of something else that you said, you know, like about it being therapeutic. It's crazy, you know, I feel like the undertone of Kendrick's whole album is a therapy session. You know what I mean? You kind of hear him going back and forth, and he speaks about therapy a lot in that album. And you know, it's just like with writing, it feels like this is therapy for me, so I kind of want to share it. You know, it's like I'm sharing my therapy. You know, so it's like let's heal together. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's really the essence of my book too. The devotional is like, you know, even though there's small instances of the personal experience of me going through it, and then it kind of leads you mostly into prayer. You know what I mean? It asks some of the big questions that you might ask yourself when you're alone, so that you can have a moment of speaking to your spirit. You know what I mean? Of talking, of trying to figure out who you are from the inside out instead of from the outside. You know what I'm saying? Looking in, and then you move from that place. And I feel like, you know, like you said, man, if we didn't have a world where we could get this stuff out, then you can't keep that stuff in, man. You can't, you know, you can't hold all that stuff in. And just like how you said, man, when I write it down, that having it be practical to what my prayer is. It's like having a practical component to prayer. It's really healing. And you kind of just blew my mind with even the little saying of you saying like, cast your burdens upon God. To me, that's writing. You know what I mean? So like, it gives an action to the prayer. Like, oh, this is the exact application.
Right.
You want
this
to
is how you do it. Yeah.
Sorry, I hope it didn't mess up right there.
Okay.
So yeah, man, I appreciate that. That was deep.
Cool. Yeah, man. I mean, life has been really good. Life has been really good, and you know, shoot, I mean, life is sweet. But what else? What else is going on? I see you. Is your wife pregnant, or does she already have the baby?
She already had the baby. Yeah.
Okay.
We got 3 now.
Okay.
3.
Oh my God! Is it 2 boys and a girl, or is 2 girls and a boy?
2 boys and a girl.
Oh my God.
Yep.
How is that? Let's talk about fatherhood, because I know that's something that our friend loves to talk about. Fatherhood is the best hood.
He said
Shout
fatherhood was the best hood.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Father's Day is coming up next month.
You know, so it's funny. So today, actually, like as soon as we get off this live, I'm gonna go finish preparing my daughter's birthday party. She's having a birthday party today. So that's my oldest. She's turning 6. Well, she turned 6 earlier this week, but today's her 6th birthday. How old is Gia?
She's 7.
She's 7. Okay. Oh, she's only 1 year older than tonight. Wow.
Yeah. Well, she'll be 8 in June.
She'll be 8 in coming up. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Next month.
Yeah.
Wow, really close. Okay. So yeah, and you know, having 3 kids, you know, when I was younger, I used to always hear people constantly say, like, you know, about the expense that kids adds on to your life. You know, kids are expensive, right? So they do add on an expense to your life. But what I've noticed is that with every child that I've had, I made more money.
Oh wow! Come on now. Yeah.
Well, because I feel like every time I go through that process again, it reinstates you got to build a better foundation. You know what I mean? Like you have even more of a legacy to leave behind. So even though my expenses have gone up, also my ideas about having intellectual property and having things that's going to last for a longer period of time, that goes up too. So I really, you know what I'm saying? Like I really live by the scripture that children are a reward from the Lord, man. Man, don't get me wrong. There's sometimes when they all in my room and I look around like, there's a lot of people in here right now. You know what I mean? I need my space. Y'all go to y'all room. Much so have those moments. You know what I mean? I still have those moments. Yeah. But overall, it's a blessing, man, because you get to watch yourself mature and you get to see your own life elevate. You know what I mean? And I learned from them. I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from how they process things. Having this very innocent view of the world, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of interesting to kind of dive into that of like why you think certain things are certain things, you know. And I have an incredible challenge on me because I have 2 children who are diagnosed with autism, so it's different. Their learning processes are so different, the way that they grasp onto things. So I'm constantly always not just trying to discipline and guide, but also trying to just dive into their mindset of like, how did you get this out of that? You know what I mean? Like how, like especially my daughter, man, when she learns something, she will not let you try to teach her it again. If she feel like she learned it, she's gonna snatch it away from you. When I put my phone. She doesn't want any interference. She doesn't want anybody else to try to help her with it again. Like when I first tried to teach her how to read books, I still read to her often. She wants to let you read it maybe once or twice. After that, she won't read it. You gotta hand it to her. And her do it. Okay. Right? And you know, early on she was struggling with actually reading the words, but she was learning books by memory. I was reading them to her, and then she was reading them back to me completely by memory. So that also was like, man, how did you process that in that way? You know what I mean? And it inspired me. Like, I want to be able to memorize a book.
Dang.
You know what I mean? Like, it makes me wonder, like, okay, when you get into, you know what I'm saying, the later stages of your life, I don't know if she's going to be an author or not. She already loves books. She might be. Your daughter's 7 and she already got a book. You know what I mean? So she might be. But if she does, she might be able to read her book without the book. She might be able to go somewhere and, you know what I'm saying, just say it on the mic when she gets in front of the stage. I think it's a beautiful thing, you know what I mean, to have kids and watch like different aspects of your personality pop out and have somebody under you that's younger than you, but somebody that you have to learn from. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just be in control. You don't just discipline and guide, but you also have times of humility of like, yeah, let me learn from you. You know what I mean? Like what's going on in your mind? So I think that's and I would say also that's the aspect that Mark also enjoyed by saying that phrase. You know what I mean? That the best hood is fatherhood, because he taught me one valuable thing too, and I think all parents should take this into consideration. He says that, you know, we especially creatives, entrepreneurs, we like our space. You know what I mean? Like, we have this space where we want to be alone, where we want to work and stuff like that. And, you know, kids, they like to invade that space. You know what I mean? And so he used to say, man, he used to say, like, you know, I pick and choose my times. I cut out my time when I'm alone. He said, but for the most part, for the majority of my day, I allow them into my presence. You know what I mean? And I try to work with them in my presence. He said, because I feel like, how would we feel if God pushed us out of his presence? You know what I mean? It's like, he's always working, but he also always has a space for you to come into. You know what I'm saying? You can always come into his presence. And so that allowed me to be like, okay, carve out your times when you want to be alone, but also, you know, kind of involve them into the work. You know what I'm saying? Like, figure out a way of getting them involved into the space. And I feel like Gia is even a bigger inspiration of that, seeing her as a 7-year-old author. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know what you did, but somehow she wasn't just in that. She wasn't just getting pushed out of that space. You know what I mean? Like, somehow she was watching and learning and gaining and wanted to be a part of the space. You know? So I love that aspect. You know. So,
and you know, it's so funny. It made me think of a question that you guys had asked. I'm like, the first podcast that I did with you for the Mother's Day podcast was 2 years ago. I think it popped up on my Facebook thing as a memory from 2 years ago. And one of the questions was like, how do you be like a mompreneur, a mom and entrepreneur?
Oh yeah.
And, like, take care of your child. And my answer was like, I just have to include her. Right? It's just her and I. So like, she's included in almost everything that I do. When I go to events, I'm not paying for a babysitter. Hey, can my child come? No, I can't do it. I really cannot. Okay? Like, and even when I am financially able to pay for a babysitter, look, she gotta come. Like, she just has to come, because I want her to be in that environment, and I want her to know that, like, this is a space that she can get into. But also, like, from the very beginning, 8 years ago, when I first had her, I didn't really have a lot of money. So the things that were free was the library. Oh, we in the library for 2-3 hours, just reading books, just being there, going to the little activities that they had at the library for the kids. And then also not having a whole lot of money, I would go to like the Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, whatever, and like get arts and crafts stuff. I'd spend $5 on paint, crayons, whatever, a coloring book. Here you go, set her to the side and keep her busy while I'm doing my thing over here. And it's become to where this little girl, I don't have a picture near me, but she is such a dope artist. Like, when it comes to like painting and stuff. And so for the last year, like, I've been trying to find an illustrator for her children's book. Finally, I said, you know what? I said, Gia, you're going to have to paint this yourself. Because at this point, look, I'm too much of a perfectionist when it comes to like something that has my child's name on it. You want me to show them that? Okay, hang on. Something that has her name on it, I want it to be like top, like, what? This has my kid's name on it. Like, we're not playing no games, right? And so she wants you guys to see the picture that she did. Let me see if I can put it in there.
Oh, snap.
These are her little people. This is my dad. That's her in the middle, and then that's me over there. And it says Cowboys, right? We're Cowboy fans. And so she just drew that.
She got the star on
today.
the chest and everything.
Everything. Okay, she got the details down. But like that started from like little scribble scrabbles. Okay. Okay. Little scribble scrabbles 8 years ago. She didn't know what she couldn't even paint in the lines. But we've come a long way. And so, you know, just that gem to drop to parents and just anybody who deals with kids. Don't push them away. Let them see you work. Include them, because you never know how it will inspire their life, you know, just being in that environment and even nurturing that, you know. We will sit and like dream together. Gia and I will sit there and
Really?
I'll ask her like, I'll ask her like, what do you want? Like, what do you think about this? Like, you know, of course, the question that always get asked to kids is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? But more than that, I take it like, oh, how do you want your room to look? Like, oh, okay, she'll say she wanted a bunk bed. She's been wanting a bunk bed for the longest. So finally, when we moved to Texas, I was able to get her a bunk bed. And so she was so excited about that. But there's so many lessons even with that. Like, I want her to know, like, first of all, prayer works. You can pray for things and God can come through. And sometimes you'll be blessed not only just from yourself, like you'll have a way to where you can go ahead and get that yourself, but sometimes it will come through other people. And so just being open to like receive that and be like open to sharing some of those things that you want is going to work out in your favor. And so she's been seeing that just through me, obviously as her parent, like, Mom, these are the things that I want. And it's like, okay, as a parent, I take note of that. And it's like, ta-da! Look at it, now we have this. Oh, remember when you said you wanted this? Look at it, now it's here.
She has vision. You're giving her, you're teaching her vision.
Exactly.
At a very young age. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, what do you want for this? Okay, well, let's work towards it because it's possible. Like, there's nothing that's impossible. It's just a matter of time and just waiting for that time to pass.
See, I need to hear her review of my devotional. I need her to read it because she got a little bit of the tools already. It's gonna feel familiar.
You know, and so it's something. But even with her, like, she also like really inspires me. One day she had brought a book home from school, and it was so good. I was like, what? It was a little chapter book. It was only 8 pages long, and like each 2 pages was a chapter. And I was, what the heck is this? I was like, what the heck did you read? What's this? So we started reading it, and I'm like, wow, this is really well written. It was short. It kept her attention, but it was easy to follow. And so one of the things that we did was I broke down how they wrote the story. In a short 3 minutes, we uncovered it, and she was like, teach me more, teach me more. And I said, okay, wow, that's cool. And so, you know, and I want to say, like, in the Black community, reading and comprehension is not, I don't know if it's that big. Like, I don't know if we just don't, and maybe it could be poverty. You know, maybe it could be poverty if you're worried about your food and you're worried about getting your lights cut off and things like that. You're not thinking about reading. You ain't thinking about reading the book. You're thinking about how can I go to work, okay? You're not thinking about reading nothing. You ain't thinking about homework. You're just not, right?
Yeah.
And so
it's that being in survival mode. Sometimes you don't give yourself the space to sit down and just enjoy. You know what I mean? Like, to just sit down and read. And then I also think it, you know, speaking about poverty, I think it has a lot to do with our history. We couldn't read. You know what I mean? At one point, it was illegal for us to read at one point in America. You know, so that's also another reason why I think it's important for us to write. Like, we couldn't read at one point, y'all. Now we can write. You know what I mean? And it's like, I always say, like, let's not let, you know, only one race write all the books and give all the instruction that we have for life. You know what I mean? It's like, us as Black people, like, we got instruction, we got tools, and we got stuff that we can give too. And I kind of feel like there's a lot of us in our community that's kind of like, well, let the white people write the books. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's let them do that stuff. And I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Like, no, we here with them now. Let's write with them. Let's like, if they writing, we need to be heard just as much. You know what I mean? Like, we got the space now. You know?
No,
and so that's why I'm always throwing it to people like, listen, I know a Black woman who owns a publishing company. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's a Black woman. Like, if you got something you need to write, holler at me. You know,
let's go. Holler at me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, my friend who I'm working with, I keep bringing him up just because it's so fresh on my mind. We were having a conversation about, it's an amazing book. It's an amazing story. And I'm like, why didn't this get published? He said he must have solicited, maybe, I don't know. I would say he solicited a lot of like traditional publishers, a lot of small publishing houses with his book. And, you know, I started looking at the demographics of like book publishing companies. And one of the things that I found was, I think it said like 90% are Caucasian, 4%
90.
are 90 something, and it might even be like 98. It might be like even larger than that, but I'm gonna say 90 because I know 4% of it was like African Americans, and it only 4%, only 4%. And
see,
so,
that's not because of inability. That's something with our brain.
Wow.
Yeah, that's mindset.
Okay. And
that's
so,
crazy.
and for me, like, every now and then I toy with this idea of like giving up. Like, dang, I come in contact with like an author who just gives me so much hell, and I'm like, Lord, what did I do? Is this my karma? What the hell did I do to deserve this madness? What the heck? And it's like, oh my God, do I want to continue to deal with people? Do I want to continue to deal with this? Should I just dismantle everything that I've worked so hard to build because of this one person? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right. But it is an idea that I do entertain, and I'm like, what's going to be my reason why? Why am I going to keep moving forward? And it's not for like my child, because I'm solid in my own writing and I'm solid in my own career. But why do I have to keep doing this for others? Because there's only 4% of African Americans in the book publishing space. So it's no longer just about me and mine, but it's about like me and the culture.
It's a cultural impact.
So much bigger, right? Because to hear some of the best writers out there say, Aurelia, I can't get a book publishing deal. Do you think it has to do with racism? I do not know. We can explore that further, but let me see what you got. Let me hear your story, and I will tell you where you can clean it up at. Where it needs to be polished at, and work with you and take that extra step and go that extra mile to see that, to see that person's story become a published book. Because for me, that just brings me so much joy all by itself. Like, I've worked with authors who like put out a book and they're just like, oh, my book is done. And I'm like, what? We put 8 months into this book. You better cheer up.
You better.
What? You better turn up. What? Your book is out. Like, this is not a small accomplishment.
See,
Quit
playing. Immediately, and I have to confess this too, man. Like I said, I think it's mindset. Because immediately, even with me, when you first sent like the finished copy back, it took me 2 days to open it up and actually read it.
No!
It took me 2 days. Because day one, I was excited and I was just looking at it. Like, okay. Yeah. Day two, I kind of felt afraid. You know what I mean? Like, I never called myself an author, never even thought about I never even thought about the word being attached to my identity, And I feel like that's the big step for a lot of African Americans. We're not used to being called art. Like, when I'm gathered around my family, it's weird to be like, yeah, I wrote a book. I'm the only person up in there who wrote a book, Like, but we're not used to it, So after that second day, I was like, all right, let me read. You know what I'm saying? I took my time. I put this out. Let me read this. You know what I mean? So I can get ready to start putting this out and giving it to people. And sales were good, like especially the first couple of weeks, because I was so excited. And so I think it's a mindset thing. You know what I mean? It's like stepping into that belief of saying that, no, you're not just the audience. You know what I'm saying? You're a part of the whole process. You're a part of the historical process. You got to be involved in it, Yeah. And so that's how I feel like I do what I do. And then, of course, also in the faith-based side, I feel like it's the same thing in the kingdom. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm not just the audience of the Bible. You know what I mean? Those were dudes who were inspired by the Holy Spirit. I'm supposed to be a part of that process, not just an audience, a part of that process of spreading that message also. You know what I mean? So I have two big motivations, and it's like one for the kingdom, because I feel like your relationship with God needs to be told, no matter how ugly it is, no matter how, if you don't think it's inspirational, as long as it's a real experience with God, I feel like that story is supposed to be told somehow, some kind of way. And then at the same time, my people, like you said, our culture, we just don't have this belief that we're supposed to be a part of the history making inside of society. And I'm like, nah, let's take grab and hold of that. You know what I mean? Like I'm with you on the level of like, we supposed to be looking at billions possibly. You know what I'm saying? Like we supposed to be like wanting to offer a service to the world that people can know about for years to come. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the difference between me and Henry Ford? I don't see no difference. He was a person. You know what I mean? It's like, I suppose we're supposed to think like that, you know? And I feel like what you do gives off that inspiration. You know what I mean? So I'm inspired by you daily. Don't get it twisted. Like, I really am. Like, straight up. Yeah.
That's encouraging, because let me tell you, like I said, it'd be hard out here in the paint. Like, I'd be like, God, like, let me get up and say, I really have to, like, and even, like, it's also been, like, a learning experience for myself, because a long time ago, I used to be a people pleaser. I just was saying yes to any and everything, and actually, that's how I became a publisher, because I had a family member, right, ask me, oh, Aurelia, will you publish my book? But, like, will you establish a company and like, publish my book? And I'm thinking, it had to be her to ask. Because if it was somebody else, they would have nicely got the middle finger, right? I don't think I would have said yes, even though I wore the tie of people pleaser, you know, around my neck. I don't think I would have done it. But I said, yeah, okay, sure. I didn't really know how to say no to that, especially after I had looked into it. It didn't take anything. I must have spent maybe $30-$40 to like register as a company, as a sole proprietor, to do that, and that was it, to like look like to be like a legitimate company. And that was 4.5 years ago now. And
isn't it crazy, like when you actually get like close to the process, you be like, oh, that was easy, like I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, the hard work is maintaining, but usually when you get the information about starting, you be like, that's really all it takes. Like, even you publishing my book, I was like, oh, really? That's all y'all do? Like, yeah, it can really happen. It's easily
right. It's the
maintaining. Really? Like, that's all it took.
For reals. Yeah. For reals. And sometimes it's like, it's the going through the process. I think that's hard. The other day I was on a podcast with someone, and we were talking about like expectations and managing people's expectations. And she had like given me like a little bit of advice as far as like, you got to let people know up front, like what to expect, because that way at the end, they won't be like so upset. Or you could go back and remind them like, hey, remember when we first got started, I said, this is what you can expect. Like, and even writing down those expectations, like, look, you're going to get out of this what you put into it. Right? Yeah. Normally in the first couple weeks, your sales are going to be good because you have been excited about this book coming. Now that it's here, your people have bought it. But like, how do you maintain that excitement? Right? And like, that's all I tell people. Marketing is telling 100 stories about the one story that you've already written. Man. How many stories can you tell about this book? Can you write it down?
It's that onion again.
Write it down. Make a list. Make a list and start telling it. And then heck, you don't have to come up with a whole 100 new stories. You can recycle it, because as you're telling those stories, you're going to start connecting with your audience, and you're going to start connecting with more and more people that it resonates with. You just got to repeat the same 100 stories over and over again until you put out another book, because in most cases, that's what happens with the authors that I work with. It's like, they don't just write one book. Hardly have I ever met an author who just only wanted to do one book. It inspires them once they go through the process.
Nah, it's like a tattoo, man. Once you start, you can't stop. It's
you want to keep going. You want to do another one. Exactly. And so it's like, I tell people, look, okay, we're going to do this. And look, I feel some type of way if you go and work with another publisher. Like, that's cool if that's what you want to do. But, like, if you're going to do another book, like, I feel like I should get dipped. Like, you know what I mean? And so I expect that. I share the expectation up front. Like, look, we're going to do this. But, like, if you're inspired to do another book, let me know. Like, don't,
right.
you know, or you can publish it yourself. That's cool, because like to me that means you learn something. But like, don't go work with nobody else.
Don't be working with nobody else
too. But like that's how I address it. But the main point is like, write the story, get it out there, and like share it. You know, share it. You don't do all the hard work for nothing.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So,
wow, this was good. Anything else that you want to share about anything going on?
No, I mean, I think, you know, the main thing I want to say is, you know, with the devotional itself, like I said in the beginning, I love the words that are written in it. I believe that there's some things that's in there that's going to inspire you. But more important is the self-assessment work. You know what I mean? It's the journaling and the truly asking yourself some of those questions that I present inside of the devotional. You know, so if you get that devotional, that's what I want you to really pay attention to. You know what I mean? That self-assessment, that work that you got to do on yourself. And also, and I hope it inspires you to, not you, but like people who come across it, I hope it inspires you to put your own work out there, because we need it. Yeah. You know, we need it. If you're in this generation, I feel like we need you. You know what I mean? You're alive for a reason and for a purpose, and we need you. I'm actually, you know, one of my craziest ideas, I feel, is I have this book that I'm working on that I don't think is probably going to get finished for, you know, 20 to 30 years from now, because I'm just writing down pieces of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just taking different concepts and I just been noting it, you know, almost like the book of Proverbs. That's what I got inspired by.
Oh wow.
And even in the book of Proverbs, it says that Solomon wrote over 3,000 proverbs and over like 1,000 songs, and it's more than this in one place. So I'm like, okay, you know, if he could do it, I could do it. You know what I mean? I could write down little gems of wisdom that I learned from every aspect of life.
Wow.
So it's something that, you know what I mean, I feel like it's going to be finished, you know, later on in life, but it's also something that's making writing, I'm living it. You know what I'm saying? It's making this writing something that I'm living. Every time I take a new concept, you know, of like of fatherhood or of authorship or of motherhood, I just take that concept and just write down some gems about it. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like writing my own proverb book. And I don't want to finish it too fast, because I'm like,
interesting.
I'm always learning, you know what I mean? So like, so that's one of my bigger ones that's coming out later on in life. But you know what I mean? Some of the quicker ones, like I said earlier, I'll just repeat it, is me and my wife are going to write a relationship book. We're going to set the foundation for that this year. And the audio book should be finished this year. Publishing, I got to figure out all the ways and all the avenues and all the places that it can go. I don't know that yet, but I do know that, you know, it's possible once you finish. You know what I mean? And you showed me that, like, once you finish, it's possible. You can find a way to get it out. Right? So be on the lookout for those things.
Woohoo! Okay. So what's today? Today is May 14th, 2022. So we're gonna come back. Right, in 20 years, you said, so May 14th, 2042.
2042. Okay. I have my own proverb book written. Yeah, that one will be done. No, wow. I'm serious about that though. Like, I got notes that's from years ago. I started on it the same year that I finished that devotional. So I got notes from 2 years ago that's really still sitting around, and I kept in one safe space that I can go back to it anytime. I'm writing that book, that big book. It's happening.
That's crazy. Wow. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube. I'm gonna make sure I save this little clip here.
Mark my words.
Hey, that's what's up. Let's see what else. Well, as for me, like I said, I had a book that I just released today called Gratitude Poetry, Thank You Poems. It's not about me or about you, but it's about the people that are special in our lives.
It just released today.
Huh?
You said you just released it today. Oh,
yeah,
damn.
I dropped it today. Yeah. So it's available today on my website, misswin.com, also at winpublications.com, and then of course on Amazon. And so, you know, I think I said this earlier, but like gratitude, counting my blessings, like, man, I've experienced a lot of hardships, a lot of trauma. But, you know, even in therapy, one of the questions that I got asked was like, how did you, you know, make it past that? How did you make it past like suicidal thoughts? How did you make it past like, you know, the physical abuse, the verbal abuse? And it was just being grateful for life, being grateful for the 1 to 2 people who was able to help me get out of those situations. It was like being thankful for just like that breath. Okay, like just really from the look for everything. Like though life may be hard and times may be hard, I'm grateful. But like this book isn't about like the things that I'm grateful for like physically, but it's about the people. Because again, like as far as like relationships, I'm no relationship coach, and I am not interested like in tapping into that area. But like one of the things that I would always hear is, you know, oh, I feel so unappreciated, you know, or this person, like I'm a giver and I don't expect anything in return. But it's like, yeah, you do. You want that person to be like, at least say thank you.
Right.
Like, dang, like, you can't even say thank you. How long did that take? That didn't even take but a second, right? You can't even, right? And so these are like short little poems that take less than 2 minutes to recite to somebody. Or even like my thing is I want people to put them in cards and give it to their loved ones as a way to say thank you. Again, because also life is too short, man. How many people have we lost in this last year, let alone in this last week, last month? Like imagine how like their family feels if they knew that that person didn't feel appreciated, or like that regret and that shame, like, dang, I wish I would have told that person thank you for the impact that they made on my life while they were here versus when they died. You know what I mean? And so that was one of the things like that I even struggled a little bit. Like I'm even getting chills talking about it. Was like at Mark's funeral, like, man, I was so sad that I never got to shake his hand. Like, dang, I wish I would have like been able to like just shake his hand and say, thanks, bro. Thank you guys for putting me on. Thank you guys so much for praying for me. When unknown to you, I couldn't even talk to God because God, I'm pissed. Like I'm talking to you right now. So let me tell my brothers to talk to you for me. And I know that that prayer got through because God came through. And that wasn't because I said anything. That's because somebody else prayed
somebody was praying for
right?
you. Yeah,
right. And so it was like, let me write this book. But I was also inspired because, you know, one of the top ways that I meet other authors is from word of mouth. I do a little bit of marketing. I do, and that's something that I preach is, hey, you got to continue to market. The moment that you stop marketing your business or your book, you're going to stop seeing the money come in. And so if you want to be a full-time author, baby, you got to market full-time. Like you just got to do that.
I had to learn that too. Yeah.
You know? And so I just felt like I want to say thank you to the people who believed in me. Thank you to the people who continue to send me referrals. Thank you to the people who continue to buy my stuff and support me. I don't want anyone to ever feel like anyone to ever be in my space and not feel appreciated or loved, because damn, maybe that will save somebody's life. Maybe that will save somebody's relationship with me, right? I want to be that person, you know, to where somebody can say, man, let me go talk to Ruya, because at least I know when I'm in her presence, I will feel appreciated. All of my exes, they will tell you, as dirty as they did me, middle fingers to them, okay? As dirty as they did me, they could never say I never appreciated that they did, okay? They cannot say that. They cannot say that. And that's just who I am. That's just who I am. And so I put it in the book. Yeah, and so that's out today. But
nah, you giving me ideas, because I'm like, especially during this pandemic, man, like anybody that showed us love or showed any kind of inspiration to us during this pandemic, we should thank. Like we should thank, man. I feel like life was already short, but I feel like these last 2 years, life has been even shorter. It feels like life has just even been shorter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm getting that book then, because I need to give some thank yous out, some random thank yous.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't love a random thank you, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I was just thinking about you, so I just wanted to say thank you. You know, like
exactly.
That would be so dope to do.
And the part about it that I love about it, so I did this intentionally. I, just got to be that way too sometimes with writing. It's like thank yous that are divided by that person's love language. And so it dares the person to take it a step further. How does this person receive love? Do they receive love by touch? Well, then you should thank them for their touch. Oh, do they receive love by affirmations? Well, then you should affirm them with a thank you in this way. So it takes it, because a lot of people, you could say thank you, and that person, it might not register in their mind because they're thinking like, oh, this is just who I am. Okay, well, let me take it a step further. How do you like to receive love? Okay, well, let me thank you in that way, because then you will understand it, I guess, was the thought behind it. Like, okay, let me thank this person for their service, because I know that that's what they would want from me. So let me give that back to them. It's not about me. It's completely about that person that you're thanking. And so it also takes it a step further, as in, like, you have to know them, right? You gotta do a little homework first. If you don't know that person's love language that you're about to thank, do a little asking. Hey, what's your primary love language? Okay, bet. Let me go and look at this book real quick. Boom, boom. I'm gonna recite this poem to them, or I'm gonna write this in a note to them, or on a post-it note and put it in their lunch, or whatever. Whatever you do, let me know. I just want to know how the poems are.
Yeah, makes it personal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
that's dope. I'm gonna be copping that.
Definitely. All right, y'all. That's all I got to say. I'm about to get in here. What time is it? It's almost time for dinner. And so, yep, she's asking me for a snack.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you. I'll say thank you right now.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me. And not only having me, but the way that you nurture the author-publisher relationship. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Because it, like, even when I have, weeks where I'm not thinking about the book as much, you know what I mean? Like, I see an email or I see a post from you, and it's like, oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? I do have something that I could be promoting right now. You know what I mean? Like it puts me right back on track. I love the fact that you do that. And also, it also reminds me when I'm talking to other people, and when they say they have books in their head, it reminds me that I feel like a plug. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I always remember, like I have a publisher friend. She still hits me up. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is still accessible to you when you finish this book. And I'm not lying to you. I really have multiple people who are finishing up books. I hope they're telling me the truth, but they're finishing up books. Yeah. And we should be. You know how that is. So. So
I've been working on it. No, you ain't.
Right. So yeah, I should be bringing them to you soon, like real talk. So I appreciate this.
I love it.
Today.
Don't bring me nobody that's gonna run off on the plug though. They gotta pay me.
Right. Oh yeah. Let's go.
I'm getting ready to make a video about that. No, because real talk, like, and this is just me venting now. Then we're gonna get off. But, like, don't refer me if you know that you don't pay your bills, right? Don't refer me if you know that your friend don't pay their bills. Okay, right? List me. I write the book, but you gotta pay. Like, dead serious. Like, don't run off on the plug. Don't
it ain't free, yo.
You don't finish paying me. And so I've had to change my policy really in the last year because of just people taking advantage, I want to say, of my kind heart. And so I've had to, like, start putting policies in place. But again, like, I feel like this is God working on me, because at bigger businesses, they got policies. Ain't no way in hell.
That's true.
You finna run off. It's going to be on your credit, right? It's going to go to collections, right? And so stepping up to that part, like, oh, I was thinking small. And I keep being put in these situations towards like, oh, I got to rise. I can't continue to operate in this. This, I gotta rise if I want to continue to do better, because there have been so many times where, woo, baby, like the door should have been closed like last year. If I'm really gonna be honest. Yeah. But again, with just that wanting to help people, it's
it's a learning curve. It's like you want to be generous, but also you gotta learn along the way.
Also, people gotta know, don't mistake my kindness for weakness, and don't mistake my faith for I'm a fool, because that's completely different. Because baby, look, I mess with some thugs and some hood dudes, and so there's some things that, just because it doesn't look like it. Listen, okay?
Don't be playing.
Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Do not, okay? So that's all I'm going to say about that.
I'm with you. All right, love you, and I love talking to you. I gotta get up out of here.
For sure. All right. Take care. Good night.
Bye. We out.